In this video, I'm going to show you the changes and updates to Evaluwise for version 1.3.0. So when you log into the home screen, you're going to immediately notice that this upper section has changed. Instead of the evaluations and the teachers buttons, you now have these three boxes. In the center box, you're going to have a breakdown of all the different evaluation types based on the filter criteria that you select. So you can select school, accounts based on your permissions, or you can check if you only want to see your evaluations that you created, and then you would click filter counts, and that would change these numbers accordingly. If you click on any of these, it's going to pop out with a list of the various evaluation types based on completion, in progress, etc., and then the informals and the summatives. If you want to add a new evaluation, before you had the buttons across the top of the screen, now you're going to be clicking on the plus button, which if you create them from the Teachers tab, you'll be familiar with that already. And you just select the type of observation you want and then go through the same process as usual. Over on the right, the notifications area, that would list things such as teacher so-and-so has completed form XYZ, or teacher so-and-so has uploaded a document, or we may have system messages such as if the software is going to be down for a short time while we make an update or something. Then over on the left, you're going to have a link to your teachers and your evaluations, as well as an area that's going to display tips on how to use the software. So those are the changes on the home screen. Now if we go to the Teachers tab, you're going to see a few changes here. There's going to be a Manage Teachers change where you're going to be able to search for the teachers by schools or groups, depending on how you have it set up. You're also going to be able to archive teachers, so you could click on that archive button and it's basically going to hide the teacher as well as their observations, so that way you wouldn't see those in your listing, and you can always unarchive them by clicking that. If you want to show the archived teachers when you're searching, you just click the Show Archive checkbox and that will show up. So those are the changes on the Manage Teachers area. You're also going to be able to export the teacher list by clicking Export Teachers, and it's going to create a download CSV file of the teachers and their information in the software. If you click on a specific teacher, you also notice a slight change in the display for evaluations. Now you have an extra box here for summatives, so you could create a summative right from the Teachers tab. Before it was just evaluations and informal observations. So it's going to work the same way as the other two. You just click plus and then go from there, selecting your rubric, etc. You could also archive your teacher right from their individual tab. So if you click archive, that teacher will disappear, and then you click archive and they will come back. All their information stays in the system, it's just not going to display on the list. So those are the changes on the Teachers tab. If we go to Evaluations, on the Evaluations tab, there's some slight changes in the scripting area that will be helpful. So before you had a separate edit and components, or whatever you call your second level categories. Now those are going to be combined. So when you click that, you'd be able to edit your statement for the script right up in the pairing box. And then when you select the domain, you'll be able to just check off the different components like before. And then if you want to view the element, that will pop out so you can view more detail for that particular component. So if we go back to the evaluation, One other thing that's also modified that has to do with the settings tab is if you use simple selection, which many of you probably don't, but if you do, what'll happen is when you go in here to script, now when you click on the pair, it's going to pop down like that instead of out of the side. So it's similar but not exactly the same, and you would still check off things just like you did before and then click done, and that would work a little bit more cleanly. Now when you're creating an evaluation, and this would be anywhere in the system, so if I click create evaluation, you're now going to be able to search by school for your teachers if you have different groupings that you access. So that's a slight change there on that. Those are all the changes on the evaluations tab. Now if we go down to the rubrics tab, this would be for initial creation of a rubric. There's some helpful things for the forms that have been added, which you will probably like if you are involved with creating forms. Now you'll be able to click and drag to change the order instead of using the arrow keys. You'll also be able to click this button here to copy the question. So if you have questions that have slightly different wording but not very much, you can just click that and it will copy the question, and you'll see it pop up on the bottom, and you can edit and move that. So those are some changes there on the rubrics tab. Now if you go down to the reports tab, there have been a few additions here. So you have the evaluation counts report. So if you run that report, it's going to give you a list of counts for the evaluation, sort of like you see on the home screen in the center section. And then you're also going to be able to do the teacher performance rating list by level. So if you click on that, run the report, it's going to list the teachers based on your selection in the preferences before running the report based on the performance level. You also have a signed summative list report that you could run. It will list when they signed as well as the signature. And then you will also be able to do some exporting of the teacher performance rating list by clicking export data. So when you do that report, you would be able to export that data more easily. Over on the settings tab, again, there's a couple options if you're a district administrator and have access to this in the administrator account. You would be able to lock editing of teachers as well as locking the ability of other people to add teachers, so you could restrict that to district level only on those. Over on the teacher dashboard side of version 1.3.0, there are a few slight modifications and additions. So there's now the ability for the teacher to click on the View Rubrics button to see the rubric outlines of the rubrics that are being used on their observations. If they click on a form within an observation and then answer questions, there are now two buttons. So there's a save and submit. So you could fill out part of the answers and then go save and submit if you want to turn it in, or if you just want to save it, come back later and complete it, you could do that as well. If you go back to the observation itself, you'll now see a View Evidence button next to the classroom observations. So this would allow teacher to view the evidence that's not paired up with the rubric, just the evidence listing itself. So those are the few modifications to the teacher dashboard for 1.3.0. If you have any questions about any of the changes with this version, please feel free to go to our website, evaluwise.org, and click on the Submit Support Request at the top under the drop-down for help. And then you could also call the phone number at the bottom of the page if you need help during business hours.